Chapter 15 of Season 2 of The Mandalorian was titled The Believer. To move against the Empire, the Mandalorian needs help from an old enemy. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and happy Mandalorian Star Wars Friday. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. We're talking Chapter 15, called The Believer, which was written and directed by Rick Famuyiwa. This is his third time bringing a great episode to The Mandalorian, and I'm so excited to break it all down in the spoiler discussion. Before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you all are following me on all my other social media accounts. If you are new to this channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can share this video and give it a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel, but I also really appreciate it. And in the comments, let's discuss Chapter 15. What did you think about the direction of Rick Famuyiwa, the writing style, the character development from Mayfield, the stuff that we get leading up into next week's finale, and also let me know your theories or what you hope to see in the finale next week. Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So before I get into my recap here, obviously, yesterday was a great day to be a Star Wars Disney fan just in general, but in particular with Star Wars. We got the news with the movies with Taika Waititi and Patty Jenkins. Oh, I can't wait. But then in regards to the TV world, this episode to me, and this is the third time that Rick Famuyiwa has directed and written an episode in The Mandalorian, I wouldn't be surprised if they give Rick his own show, very similar to Deborah Chow. I think we can expect, maybe, I may be wrong, but Rick Famuyiwa may be the showrunner for the Rangers of the New Republic. I think he just fits so perfectly in the Star Wars universe. I think he handles these characters so well. So I would love to see Rick get his own show, and I hope that show is Rangers of the New Republic. And it may have Cara Dune, it may have Mayfield, it might be some interesting characters that we get in that show. But I thought the direction in the writing was great. I thought the stuff that we got on the planet, the character development was just so fantastic, and it really kind of sets up a really interesting finale, especially the message that Mando gives Moff Gideon at the end of this episode. I'm really excited to break it all down. But again, I thought this episode was really great. And again, Rick Famuyiwa, showrunner of new Rangers of the New Republic, will be great. But let's get into the recap. Starting off with the episode, we see that Cara Dune, in her new position, is able to get Mayfield out of his job and to hire him into jobs. She's able to get him out of prison, which last week, as you all know, I thought that this was going to be like a prison break type of episode. But again, with Cara's new promotion of being a new Republic Marshal, she was able to just easily get him out of his sentence and get on this job. To his surprise, he sees Boba Fett walking out of the Slave One ship and like, oh, I thought you were one of those Mandalorians I met before. And I love that moment that they kind of reunite, and he's just like, oh, hey, Mando. And I love Bill Burr. To me, is kind of like the quintessential kind of comedy that I like in Star Wars. It's not over the top like the Patty character that we get, which I'm not a fan of Patty Mono at all, but I like Bill Burr's comedic sensibility in this role. I think that's like the perfect kind of line of like comedy that I kind of like in Star Wars. I don't like the over the top comedy. I don't like the dry comedy. I like how Bill Burr, which again, we all, if you're fans of Bill Burr, we know that he's one of the best comedians out there, but I love his kind of character. And I hope, again, going back to my, potential hope to see Cara Dune in a Mayfield in a Rangers of the New Republic, but I hope that we get more from that character because I love the stuff that we get with him in this episode. So as we kind of move forward, we get the idea of what the mission is going to be like. We have to go to the planet Morak, where we have to go to this secret mining hub to get the coordinates for where Moff Gideon is headed. As we kind of transition to the next scene, this is where the episode, you kind of get the hints that, okay, this is where Mando is going to take off his helmet. We've been waiting for it all season. We thought we was going to get it maybe a couple weeks ago, but this was the episode as we see them having a swap out there. Obviously, this is the first time that Mando's had to take off his Beskar armor, which we'll talk about him not having his armor to his disposal, but we know that he has to swap gears, and this is where, again, we get to see that beautiful face of Pedro Pascal. As we move forward, we see these beautiful shots of the jungle. This planet is just so gorgeous. Again, I love the cinematography. I love, obviously, the technology they're using to shoot the Mandalorian, but I love the kind of landscaping and all the different shots that we see of the jungle as we see Mayfield making fun of Mando, taking off his helmet. And again, this is where Bill Burr, to me, just really kind of lands those comedic chops and just really makes it this kind of fun adventure. And again, I love his comedy sensibility within the Star Wars universe as we get this really interesting conversation here between Mayfield and Mando as he brings up that they're a lot alike. They're both survivors. And this is the conversation in regards to the episode being called The Believer. As we know, in the Star Wars universe, there's a lot of great characters. Obviously, there's the dark side and the light side and all that stuff, the Republic and the Empire. But a character like Mayfield, to me, is what I love about a show like The Mandalorian. We get to get into the psyche of someone, which I thought we were going to get into with the most recent sequels with the Finn character, him being working as a stormtrooper. What is that like when he doesn't have the same type of goals and missions, and he cares for what's going on? And we get that within this episode as they have this conversation about survival, and as he brings up with Mando about how he keeps his helmet on and how he's a believer of the Mandalorians and all that stuff. And it's just like, you have to kind of free yourself of these kind of different titles, right? I love these conversations in the Star Wars universe, and I love these type of character moments. And this is what I love most about this episode, was the dialogue that was in this episode. As I mentioned in previous episodes, some of the dialogue, like last week, some of the cheesy dialogue, we know that to be in the Star Wars universe, but this is like the character dialogue that I love in regards to a character-driven type of episode. And this is what I love about The Mandalorian, is we're on the ground level. We see how the Empire is building themselves up. We see that they're going to these smaller planets, taking these mining explosives to build the Empire, but we get to go on the ground level. Obviously, when we see in the sequel, the empires are built, but now we get to see how the Empire was built. And this is what I love about The Mandalorian. As I kind of digress, we move forward. We see that Mando gets interrupted as they're going to the mining shaft. They get interrupted by pirates, and like I said, Mando doesn't have his Beskar armor, but that doesn't matter because he's still a great fighter. We see him just kicking a lot of ass, and this is, again, going back to Rick Famuyiwa. I love the setup of the action. I love the stakes, right? Because it's almost like Speed, the movie Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, as we know that Mayfeld can't slow down, because if he slows down, the pirates are going to come and get him. But if he speeds up, the explosive on this rig that they're on will explode. So I love the tension within this scene. And again, the hand-to-hand combat, seeing Mando throwing a left punch, a right punch, using the weapons of the pirates was just a lot of fun and just a really good choreographed fight. And we get to see, again, Mando, even without his Beskar, he is still a good warrior and can go hand-to-hand with the best of them. So I love that fighting sequence that we get there as we see the stormtroopers save Mando and Mayfield at the last minute. And I love that they, again, changing their perspective. We get the kind of heroic music in the background as the stormtroopers are saving Mando. It's just like a weird psyche. We're just like, yeah, stormtroopers helped them out. Obviously, we're not fans of the Empire, but I kind of love that moment, again, of just switching the perspective. And we even see the stormtroopers like, yeah, you made it. Yeah, it's just like, you felt kind of weird in that moment because you're cheering for our heroes, but then they're being, they're obviously in the enemy's camp. So just a weird kind of psyche. And again, this is why I love this episode personally. But as we move forward, we see that Mayfield cannot go and get the coordinates from the terminal because he spots someone, and that is Haz, as we see that he was used to be under his command and worked for him in the past, so he can't show his face. So going back to Mando having to show his face, we see that he decides to get the coordinates. The scanner can't read someone with their helmet on, so we see that beautiful face of Pedro Pascal as it does read. But then it's within these next few moments in this scene here, going back to the dialogue, going back to just a great written episode, we see that he invites them over to celebrate them being able to be one of the only stormtroopers to get the rig back to the base, as they're kind of having this really great conversation. And I've seen online, and I really agree with a lot of people, this moment where we're seeing them have this conversation reminded me a lot of Inglourious Basterds by Quentin Tarantino. And also this episode had a lot of like a Dirty Dozen type of vibe by Rick Famuyiwa. Again, a student of the game. He knows his filmography. So we see, again, going back to my Inglourious Basterds comparison to a lot of people said online, it's that conversation that Mayfield has as he's talking to the enemy or the person that he used to work for. Again, when we see Inglourious Basterds, the three versus the, Order in the Three, when they're having the conversation, Mayfield just kind of has that moment where it's just like they're talking about what happened on this particular operation where I believe he said 5,000 and 10,000 people lost their lives. Innocent people that he worked with, people that he was, on this mission with, that they lost their lives. And as we see Haas talking about, well, it's for the better good of the Empire, this, that, and the other, and just really just being that evil side of the Empire, not really being that human side that we see with a Mayfield character. So after all this kind of back and forth, we see Mayfield has had enough, and this is kind of his redemption, and kind of to get back to his badder days or him working for the Empire. he takes him out. I'm just thinking to myself, as Mando, I love Mando too. I love seeing Pedro Pascal's face in that moment where he's just trying to be like, Mayfield, this isn't the time and the place to kind of get upset. But we see that Mayfield gets his revenge. He takes him out. We see them break out of the cafeteria area as we see Finnick and Cara Dune taking out the stormtroopers. Again, their skills are incredible regarding their marksmanship. We see them take them out. The Slave One ship comes in. I love that scene with Boba Fett when he drops that missile when it explodes the stormtroopers' aircrafts. It was just an incredible. The action to me, again, Rick Famuyiwa, give this man his own show because he just knows Star Wars, and I love the way he directs this episode. We see that they make their way off of the planet, or I should say before they make their way off the planet, we get a nice little character moment. Again, a nice character arc for Mayfield as we see Cara Dune as he's like, you know what, I did my job, time to take me back to prison. And she says, you know what, it's unfortunate that you died on this mission as they let him go. I love that moment for Cara Dune, number one, seeing that redemption, seeing him getting his kind of payback as we see that he blew up those rigs with the explosives before they got off of the planet. But I love that Mayfield has his kind of redemption story, and again, I would love to see him come back. Number one, Bill Burr, funny as hell, like his character, love his character arc, love his motivations. He's now kind of, seeing that he's made mistakes in the past, but he's not necessarily tied to the Republic. He's not tied to the Empire. I love great characters in the Star Wars universe, so I hope that we get more of him. As we kind of wrap up the episode, we see Mando leaves a very special message to Moff Gideon as he tells him the exact same thing that Moff Gideon told him last season regarding that he's going to get the child back. Is something special to him. It's his son, as they allude to a lot in this episode. So I think this episode was fantastic. It sets up what I hope to be an incredible finale. I think Jon Favreau is going to be directing the finale. I'm not quite sure, but maybe it's Rian Johnson or whatnot, but I'm pretty sure it's Jon Favreau. But a great second to last episode to set up what I hope to be a great finale. Again, Rick Famuyiwa directed, written this episode really well. Mayfield's character was fantastic. The banter between him and Mando, but also just the conversations that they had in regards to not necessarily devoting your life into these different fractions of the Empire and the Republic. It's being your own person. It's being free. It's being a believer in humanity and whatnot, and being a believer of making the right decisions. So I kind of love that message in this episode, and I thought this episode was fantastic. So those are my thoughts, my breakdown, my recap. I want to know what you all thought of this chapter 15, your pros, your cons, your character moments. Would you like to see Rick Famuyiwa direct and write and be a showrunner of a future Star Wars show, or would you like to continue to see him popping into these Mandalorian episodes? Me personally, give this man his own show because he knows Star Wars in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. And of course, what do you expect to see next week? Bo-Katan, Ahsoka got her own show. I don't think we'll see her this season, but it'll be nice. Boba Fett, Finnick, Cara Dune going to get the child. And again, I think this is the only episode that we haven't seen the child. So we're going to get him back next week. And will he be more on the dark side? Will he use his force powers to get him out of the situation? Moff Gideon with his Darksaber versus Mando in his Beskar spear. I cannot wait for the finale. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, like, share, leave your thoughts in the comment section. As always, subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you get the alert from when I drop new content. Again, it feels so great to be a Star Wars fan with the announcement yesterday, and the future of Star Wars is looking bright, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm glad to be a part of this Star Wars community. As always, hope you're staying safe. Thank you for watching this review, and we'll see you on the next one.